Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Moxxie Coaching Podcast. My name is Michelle, and I'll be your host as we explore what coaching is and how it can help you create your best life. If you're anything like me, it's important to you to give back in some way. Maybe it's volunteering in the soup kitchen. Maybe it's donating $1 million to environmental research. It doesn't really matter. I started coaching and podcasting because I'm just one person who can only do so much alone. And I realized that through coaching and through podcasting, I could help and support those of you who want to do good works and exponentially increase the amount of good that I'm able to do. So if this sounds like you, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Be well. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Moxxie Coaching Podcast. It is a cold and blustery day here, and I'm sitting here in my office with my supervisor, Miss Bits, who's eyeing me up, trying to decide if I'm doing my job or not. She's she's one of our 4 cats. She is a stray, absolutely beautiful part Maine Coon, but she's a ginger, and she's just gorgeous. And she has a fancy paw because a dog got her, and so she has one paw that sort of does its own thing. So we call it her fancy paw. And she's pretty grateful to be inside and quickly turning into a judgmental house cat. So that's my life today. Once again, as we transition out of the relative calm of the even number of the 6s and into the odd number of the 7s, we transition into a little bit more dynamism and a little bit more chaos, right? So 7s are all about this taking the time to reflect. It's almost like it's a developmental stage that you're going through. And, it's like your spiritual developmental phase. And, you're exploring wisdom and spirituality and perception, questioning your insight, questioning your own perception of things, maybe doing some inner work, some inner reflection, that type of thing. So from a numerological perspective, that's kind of what the 7s bring up for us. So how about the 7 of Wands then? Let's begin with that. The card itself is an image of what looks like probably a working class person, man, and he is standing up on the top of a hill or a mountain of some sort. And below him are 6 wands that are pointing up at him in what feels like an aggressive way. So what I envision is, below him there are 6 people holding sticks, shoving them up at him and sort of challenging him. And he's up at the top, and he has his own stick, and he is fending them off. So if we remember that wands are the action-oriented suit, and we look at it from the perspective of the numerology and sort of all of the things together, what we come up with this card is this this person of being in a position of some sort of resistance. Now, it could be physical resistance. What are they resisting? More than likely, though, it is either energetic resistance or resistance to doing something that they know that they need to do. It could also be just simply about someone who has a very strong will and is convinced that their theory or whatever it is correct. So this card could be coming up at a time when you're feeling under attack, when you feel like you're having to be courageous and hold your own ground about something, whether it is, maybe you have a political view that the rest of your family doesn't, and doggone it, you're going to stick with that view. Whatever it is, um, it's this energy of, given the choice between fighting or flighting, that fight or flight instinct that we have. At this moment, this person is ready to stay and fight. They are ready to stand their ground and deal with what needs to be dealt with and stay in their own integrity and do what they think they need to do as a person of character. So, how does this translate into reality and into questions that we can ask? We can look at it like someone is physically fighting a battle. You know, I'm trying to I'm trying to figure out how to help you guys look at the cards from a creative perspective and not such a literal perspective. And I know this is a completely parenthetical thing, and I've just gone off topic completely, but it's appropriate to have this conversation. So, what's going through my mind as I'm talking to you about these cards is just the massive number of possibilities, right, for interpretation of each of these cards because of the massive number of different situations we're looking at in relationship to them. What I want you to try to start doing, even if it's just a little bit, is to take what you're learning from me, take what you're learning from all of the resources that you're using on your tarot journey, and try to allow your brain to take the definitions that you have, take the understandings and the knowledge that you have, that concrete knowledge, and sort of squish it around a little bit. Um, Allow it to be a little bit more flexible. Allow it to sort of seep into your pores and see where things that may not be as obvious might apply. So, for example, getting back to the Seven of Wands, it looks, at first glance, this card, because wands are an action suit, is all about some sort of physical battle, right? Well, it can be a physical battle, but it could also be a social battle, depending on the situation for the reading. So, for example, let's say you're doing a reading, I don't know, something related to some topic on social justice, and this card comes up. Well, this card is indicating that there is indeed a battle going on, and that battle is related to this topic of social justice. So, the action here is the action of the social justice. Alternatively, let's say this card is in a personal reading for you and you are trying to figure out, what's going on. You're having a really difficult time in your interactions with someone in your life and you cannot figure out what's going on. And this card comes up. Well, that's a good indication that there's a battle somewhere in the relationship between you and the other person, or between you and yourself, in that maybe you are not speaking out when you need to speak out and standing up for yourself in the way that you need to stand up for yourself. So, what I'm suggesting is, as you begin to delve more deeply into the cards, and I think that forming questions as a way to dig into what the cards are trying to tell you, and doing that on the fly, like right during a reading. Okay, what is this card trying to say to me? Is this card suggesting to me that I'm having some emotional battle? All of that kind of stuff. Um, I just want you to try to be open to, once you have this foundational knowledge that we're getting here, and once you have that, the support of having a list of questions, my questions, your questions, all of that. So once you have all of that, take comfort in it, use it, and when you're asking those questions, as you begin to get more comfortable, begin to explore the different takes on how a card might be interpreted based on the situation or based on the people involved. All right, now that got that off my chest, let's continue. All right, so let's look at this Seven of Wands and let's ask those questions. Well, where's the battle? Where was the battle? Or where will the battle be? Is that battle likely to be in my heart? Is it likely to be in my mind? Is it likely to be an actual confrontation with someone? What is the set and setting around this battle? Why this battle? Why is this coming up for me? Is it coming up because I'm trying to assert myself and grow personally? Is it coming up because somebody's just being a jackass? Explore those things, because having a clear understanding of why something is happening, or as at least as clear as you can help uh, tone things down a little bit when things get heated. You may also want to ask yourself, are you feeling defiant about something? And if so, what? Are you resisting something? And if so, what might that be? Are you feeling backed into a corner? Are you consciously or unconsciously resisting something that's important, that needs to be addressed? And this card is coming up because it's telling you it's time to put your stick down. All right, let's move on to the Seven of Cups. The Seven of Cups card itself is it's an image of a silhouette, looks like a man, and he's standing with his back to us. And in front of him are all of these fluffy clouds, and on top of the clouds are 7 cups. And each cup holds something distracting, something that as humans we can be distracted by. A beautiful woman, money, power, knowledge, all of those types of things. And then one of them is what looks like, what we would assume, some sort of spiritual figure standing with a sheet over its head, sort of put 2 eyes on it and it would look like a little Halloween ghost. But it's a little, it's a person, but they have an aura around them. But it's not clear who they are or what it is they have to offer. It's clear what all of these other cups have to offer. It's clear that they have things that can tempt us, if we're looking at a religious perspective, tempt us down paths of sin. And there's this unknown. It's like, what's behind door number 3 that you just don't know. So it's this temptation to find out what's behind the door. It's also a conversation with yourself about what kind of choices am I making? Am I making the right choices here? Are they moving me forward in the way I want to be moved forward? So this card generally is about temptation. Losing sight of your spiritual path, false thought not understanding something correctly and going off on a tangent. Um, being very grounded in your body, desiring titillation and being very hedonistic. So these cups are full of distractions, and some people will say that each cup represents one of the 7 deadly sins. So lust, rage, gluttony, pride, greed, envy, and sloth. So what would be an example of this card? When would it come up? It might come up it could come up, of course, in all different ways. It could be something as simple as you need to decide, are you going to, all right, let's make it actually a truly difficult question. You are a nurse, you have a shift coming up, you are a hospital nurse and you are exhausted and you need a mental health day, but you also know that those on your team are just as exhausted and struggling. And one of those cups in front of you has a big old bubble bath and a book and a massage and a nap in it. And you are very tempted, even though you know the right thing to do is, or you think the right thing to do is to go in and support your coworkers. Maybe the right thing to do is to support yourself. So it's that push and pull. Where are you feeling tempted? What's the right thing to do? It could also be asking you if you have strayed off your personal path. So have you become so engaged in the material world that things like the things in these cups, sex, power, money, knowledge, whatever, are more important to you than the spirituality that is likely in that one cup that you can't see? So it's basically asking us if it's time to take a look at where we are spiritually. If we ask ourselves if we are where we want to be, and if we're not, what do we need to do to get ourselves turned around? So some good questions to ask might be, where are you feeling tempted? By what are you feeling tempted? Can you identify it in terms of the card? If you're having a difficult time understanding, I apologize for my big dog barking. Can you identify it, or is it something that you can't really put your finger on yet? Can you identify why maybe you are feeling distracted from life, or you're choosing distraction from life? The past 2 years have been wildly challenging for so many people, and abusive relationships or abuse in relationships is on the rise, or has been on the rise, or over the past 2 years that was an upward trend due to all of the stress. Drinking, drugs, all of those things, because of the collective stress that we've been under. So can you identify, are you feeling just like you need a distraction? And that's okay if you need a distraction. The challenge is to figure out what's a healthy distraction and what's not. Where are the limits on distraction and disassociation? You may want to ask yourself if you have strayed off of your personal spiritual path. Or are you mentally stuck on a hamster wheel? Because, when we get into this overthinking, trying to choose, trying to make a decision, everything is bigger than it needs to be, bigger than it really is, or it feels bigger than it is. you might want to ask yourself, have I got myself stuck? Am I holding myself hostage here by something that I am um, really needing to address? Or is my ego messing with me here? Is my ego saying, hey, you really need to earn more money. Your self-worth is not what you want it to be. And the only way it's going to be that is if you make X amount per year. So ask yourself, is what's going on here? Is this your ego messing with you because it's telling you you're not rich enough, sexy enough, powerful enough? Or is it somebody saying, hey, you're out of balance here. You are a little bit too, I'm not going to say too sexy, but a little bit too abusive of your power, or a little bit too manipulative with your appearance, or whatever. So those kinds of things are questions that you might want to ask. Another way you could interpret this is that someone is being presented with everything they could possibly want, everything that cultures around the world mostly tell us, Western cultures around the world tell us we should want. And this could be considered somewhat of a test, isn't a good word, a potential turning point for you spiritually, because this card is coming up and you're looking at it and it's like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I think it is time for me to find out what's under that sheet, because all of this other stuff that I've been working for the past 10, 20, 30, 50, whatever years hasn't done it for me. And I think I'm going to try a different path. And I'm going to accept the challenge and accept the gift of this card and see what I come up with. All right, Seven of Pentacles. The Seven of Pentacles is all about reaping what was sown. It's a pentacle, so it is all about material things. It's about being financially responsible. This card is like the 20-year-old who's thinking ahead and has already started their IRA and their other retirement account, and they're investing. This is someone being financially responsible. It could also be considered almost like too responsible, somebody hesitating before they're enjoying the fruits of their labor. The card itself is an image of a working class man leaning on a shovel or a hoe or something, and he's looking at 6 pentacles that are growing on this lush green vine. And then there's 1 pentacle that's on the ground. And it's hard to tell if he is, dissatisfied that this pentacle is on the ground and it's not where it should be, or if he is trying to decide. It's like, oh, it's on the ground, I might as well enjoy it. Okay, I'm going to take it and enjoy the fruits of my labor here. It's like a guilty pleasure kind of thing, or someone who has enough but feels guilty about having as much as they do. So in general, we're looking at sort of financial fruits of labor, investments, returns, financially responsible, reaping what was sown, though. So remember, if we're looking at, maybe we're looking at this from a relationship perspective, and someone has been a real ass in a relationship, and their partner broke up with them, or their partner, they're suffering some sort of consequences, and so now they are reaping what they've sown, right? So again, It's all about the interpretation, and it's all about um, opening your mind up to the different possibilities and the different ways these cards could fit into the different situations in our lives. And if you don't even want to go that way, you know, if it's just too overwhelming to even start thinking of that, just stick with the traditional meanings, stick with the questions, and that alone you will get a lot out of. And the longer you work just sort of within the confines of those two things, you're eventually going to absorb that knowledge, and then you'll be ready to move on and maybe explore some of the relationships between the cards, or the relationships um, a little bit outside of what might be considered the traditional interpretation. So then, what kind of questions might we want to ask when this card comes up in a reading? Well, you might want to ask yourself, you know, what have you been working on that might be coming to a close? Where might where in your life might be you preparing to reap the rewards of your efforts? Is it a project that's coming to a close? Is it a contract that you had that you just rocked it and that's finishing up? You know, what is it? Identify, if you can, why this card is coming up, what it's related to. You also might want to ask yourself, okay, you know, I've gotten this far. Look at, I've got all of these six wand or six wands, the six pentacles, and still, am I feeling like I've achieved what I wanted to achieve? Am I satisfied with that level of achievement? Do I want eight pentacles on the vine? Or, you know, do I want a different job now that I have achieved that one? Or you know, am I satisfied with what I've been able to achieve in this situation? Or did I fall short? You know, maybe we know ourselves best. It's okay to be honest with yourself. It's okay to be honest with everybody, actually. I'm reading a book called Radical Honesty. Anyway, you can be honest with yourself when you're doing your reading. Nobody else is going to be there to you know, give you a hard time. Did you screw up? Did you fall short on something? Did you drop the ball? And if so, where, how, and what can you do to remedy the situation? This also might be coming up because Pentacles are all about work, 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 work. And it may be asking you, have you been putting too much or an unhealthy amount of attention on your work, on a project, or are you able to, are you really balancing things out? Because it looks like you're not balancing things out when you get this card. So where can you add more balance to your work? Where can you add more balance between work and life? If you are reaping what was sown, are you good with continuing to sow the same things? So let's look at this from an emotional perspective. If you are, let's say you've been a jerk. We'll go back to that one. You've been a jerk, your partner left you, you are reaping what you have sown. Are you good with that? Are you good with continuing to sow the same? Or are you willing to take a look at your stuff, take a look at your own stuff, learn a lesson, and grow from it? All right, last one. Seven of Swords. Seven of Swords card is about somebody who is kind of impulsive, potentially. Someone who, I want to say, kind of acts out a little bit. Potentially, they act out against what is considered normal. They want to do things their own way sometimes. Um, like I said, an impulsive personality, and potentially, um, something related to doing something wrong, doing something one is not supposed to be doing. Ulterior motives, it's another one. You know, is the person coming up in this reading or in relationship to this reading, or is there something going on where there are ulterior motives or less than honorable intentions? And the image of this card just feeds right into that. It is an image of a man wearing a funky little fez, and he is sneaking away from what looks like some sort of, camp out thing for a siege, like way back when, where all of the, all the tents are there and all the people are there and they're trying to starve the guy out of the castle. Well, it looks here like we've got a little not very important person sneaking away with 7 swords. I'm sorry, sneaking away with 5 swords. He's leaving 2 of them there. So in terms of, it ties into this whole somebody's being impulsive. Somebody is doing something wrong. Someone maybe with less than honorable intentions, potentially letting you know that there's some sort of betrayal or deception there. But keep in mind that that betrayal or deception could be you deceiving yourself or betraying yourself in some way. And then there's also this kind of interesting philosophical question of, is this person an outcast because they steal things? Or are they stealing things because they're an outcast? So does this person need something that they're not getting? And if they were able to get that, if they were able to get the social recognition they need or they crave, might that change things? So what are the questions we might want to ask when this card comes up? Well, am I feeling left out? Am I feeling left out of the group? Is that why I am feeling bitter or feeling angry or feeling frustrated? Maybe I'm not at the point where I'm stealing everybody's stuff, but is there something here that's leaving me feeling like I don't belong? Do I feel, or similarly, do I feel the need to act out? Do I feel the need to behave impulsively for some reason? And if so, what might that be about? And how can I turn that into something healthy as opposed to something impulsive or compulsive? Is there something I've done that I'm not afraid of, or that I'm not proud of? Let's say, I don't know, let's say that you were being really selfish in some situation. And maybe the other person doesn't even really know that you were being selfish. Like, I don't know, you ate the last half of the Ben and Jerry's that they didn't even know was in the freezer. That kind of thing. But you're feeling kind of guilty about it. And this card comes up. Well, yeah, I feel like I snuck around and I ate the ice cream and I wasn't totally honest about it. And, that's a really silly example, but we can take that type of example and take it to the moon in terms of guilt level, right? So is there something that I'm not proud of that I haven't really addressed that I need to address? Also, where might my actions have been less than honorable? Have I done something recently that that I'm not proud of, that has maybe been questionable? And likewise, have you been deceiving, or have I been deceiving or being less than honorable or betraying myself? And if so, how? What is it that I am protecting myself from? What is it that I don't want myself to see? what is it that I need to address in order to feel like I can not have to be sneaking around, taking off with other people's swords. All right. I know that I threw a lot of information at you this week, and I don't want to overwhelm you in terms of suggesting that it's time to start thinking about being a little bit more open and creative with your interpretations. If you are comfortable with that, then absolutely jump on the bandwagon. If you're still at a point where it's like, nope, I'm doing things by the book, I hear you, I understand you, and I have been you. So don't feel like there's anything wrong with taking that approach. We all get where we get on our own path. We take our own route to get there. And tarot is a little bit different for everyone. It's very, very personal. So just keep it up and keep tuning in. Next week we'll talk about the eights. And I think that is it. I hope you all have a great week. Yeah, I think that's it. You all be well, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.